Hey everyone, welcome to the Spiritual Underground podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dan Reeves. If you're just coming across this podcast for the first time, a great majority of it is 12-step recovery content. That's my background and how I came to wake up. And but a lot of people from all over the world are coming in and wanting to have a conversation, and I think it's just totally cool. I love it that I get to from this little New Albany hillbilly house in southern Indiana to having people from all over the country and all over the world want to come in and chat. And as I always say, if you're looking in certain places, man, this world can look pretty dark. And but I just keep on keeping my eyes on the people who are carrying light, and I still and will always believe that the light will overcome the dark. And I just personally am been in touch with a lot of people that are carrying light, and that lifts me through my days as well. My guest today is Sue Elliott. Her little line down there says, "My angel coach." And I'm very interested in that. I have a couple friends. I have one friend in particular that really talks a lot about angels in his life through his journey in recovery. So it'd be interesting to reflect and also point him this direction at this podcast, see what he might pick up from that. How you doing today, Sue?
I am great. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We're both snowed in. This is January the 26th, and big storm 2026 and big storm come through. We were had a little conversations on whether if we was going to have power or what, but it looks like all went better than we could have wished for. So we'll run with that.
The angels obviously wanted to connect us.
I like that. Yeah. Uh, so tell me a little about yourself and how you know, everybody seems to have, we got a path. We didn't just, I wasn't born, I may have been born this way, but I certainly wasn't awake to it yet. Right. And at some point, for me, it was alcohol and drugs and stuff brought me to a point where I needed to do something different or things weren't going to go well for the future. And most people have some kind of story of what brought them here.
Oh, so I was a pretty normal person, if there is such a thing as normal. I was a car magazine editor and a spokesperson for the automotive aftermarket
Oh,
when
yeah.
I started hearing angel messages, and they wouldn't shut up until I delivered the messages. So, and my reaction to hearing their messages was something like, la, 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 I can't hear you, leave me alone.
Mm.
It's just kind of funny now that I know more of who I've been lifetime after lifetime. But at the time, I was very much in a, um, let's say, cause and effect reality, right? I'd been on a spiritual personal transformation journey for a long time at that point. I started on it in the early 90s when I discovered Marianne Williamson and her book, A
Hmm.
Return to Love, and it totally resonated. I must have read it a million times and given copies to all kinds of people. And then I found Abraham Hicks and met my beloved on an Abraham cruise. And but the part where I started doing this happened toward the end of my marriage when I started really awakening in a big way.
So that was towards the end of a marriage that did end.
Yeah, so it was about 2003,
Yeah.
and it took a minute. One thing the angels say all the time is that we're on a journey of evolving and becoming.
Hmm.
So at the time, Abraham Hicks, I was really into the law of attraction teachings. And I even had created a magazine that was sold on newsstands all around the world called Law of Attraction, which was really much broader. It was a personal transformation magazine. And we included an excerpt from Estelle Nicholson's amazing book called Soul Recovery, which is
Hmm.
the 12-step space. She talked about, she had all kinds of addictions, and she shared how the traditional 12 step helped to a point, and then she needed to bring the divine into it. Um, Not in a separate from me way that it normally is, but in a part of me, I am connected to this. I am this way. And that made all the difference in her world. But I digress. There is no such thing as a tangent, right? It's all
Yeah.
relevant. It's all path. Um, so yeah, the angels began sharing this information when I was still in the marriage. And I've been on this divinely guided journey of being trained to do what I'm doing right now in
Hmm.
this lifetime. So I wrote for car magazines for 20 some years. Technical how-to articles, right? How to rebuild your first engine, how to swap from drum brakes to disc brakes, taking complicated engineering material and making it really accessible to anybody. I always wrote so my mom could do it, right? So, and she knew nothing about cars. So
But
that's,
you did know this stuff also as well. It wasn't
well,
just copy editing,
so
or was,
no, I was the editor in chief of a lot of the magazines, and I was writing these articles and photographing them myself. But
wow,
I went in there knowing that the person I was visiting with was the expert.
I got you.
So they used to always comment on how the guys showed up and tried to prove how much they knew, and I showed up like they were the expert and I wanted to share what they knew. And so it was a very different dynamic, right? And I had to
Okay.
get over myself
Yeah.
because there were a lot of times where I had to point at something and go, what is that called? You know, you just can't pretend to know everything at that point. So it opened me up in a way to, it honed my skills at making complicated information really accessible.
Mm,
Right. So,
yes.
so this book, what prompted us to connect is very much taking conceptual stuff and making it super easy and practical. So a dear friend of mine the other day said, I've been helping a client, she's also a coach, and she was saying, I've been helping a client with acceptance. And we were all like tangled up in how complicated it was. And then I got to that section in your book and she's like, and you narrowed it down to like 3 pages. Like, oh yeah. Well, the angels are really good at making things simple. And they trained me how to do that, how to write it in a way that's really conversational. It's just like us talking. So, yeah, apparently it's one of my superpowers. So I assumed everybody could do that. And then I realized not so much.
Yeah, there's this kind of material is, I don't know if this is exactly correct. It's to some extent it was correct for me. I'm not sure for everybody, but there was a piece of me that at some level wanted to like reject it. I wanted to block things that I was reading. Just like if it seemed woo. Uh, and I wasn't like I was attempting to be open to it. I was in a pinch and I was trying to. I was looking at a prison sentence and stuff, and I didn't know if getting sober would keep me out of prison or not, but it was really the only thing so I was trying, but there was a block in me that wanted to, like a wall that wanted to not see the material. And where I'm going with that is that, it almost can't be too simply written to some level, because I think everybody probably has that wall up a little bit, that anything I can poke a hole in, or if it's difficult to absorb, or if I'm having to read it over and over again, it's going over on the shelf with the rest of those books.
And I had piles of those books from having done the magazine. I got book after book. And I hear you. I think, well, so before we go too far, I just want to say I'm not looking for clients, right? I am the opposite of most coaches who come on a radio show or a podcast. I'm putting myself out of business with this book. This book has all the good stuff in it. It's $29.99. It's way cheaper than working with me, and you can use it 24/7. So, not looking for anything other than if the book resonates with you, it would be lovely if you got the book. And the most of the examples in the book, partly maybe for that reason, or maybe just because of who I am as a being, are about me. This is the stuff that the angels laugh at me all the time because it took a million, you know, examples, practice sessions for me to act from guidance. I mean, one day I had gone to lunch and I was sitting in the parking lot after I ate in my car and I was going to go out the nearest exit at the shopping center. And they're like, no, go the other way. I'm like, but there's like all these speed bumps and crosswalks and people, and it's going to take like, what, like a minute longer, maybe to go the other way. I'm like, no, I'm going out this one. So I go out and I'm sitting at this red light with an arrow, and it goes through 3 complete cycles of green for the other people, green from people going my way, but not an arrow, green for the other people. And they were trying to tell me the traffic light was broken and to go out the other way.
Yeah,
But I
haha.
couldn't follow my guidance. And then finally they gave me an arrow and they're like, see? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll listen to you. So yeah, it's been a journey of me arguing with the angels almost every day. Even still, they're like, say this. And I'm like, really?
Yep. I totally get that. For whatever reason, I've never thought of that as angels. for whatever
Ah.
reason, but I do have something giving me messages, and when I ignore them, I usually find out why, like that,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
when I follow along, even though I'm going, this seems wrong, but I will do this or whatever, or then things tend to actually go right. Now I have learned to tune into that and operate like that for the past 10 or so years of listening to that. Obviously we always we got to keep on making the wrong decisions once in a while. I think you almost have to. It's just default mode so that you get reminded. Yep, remember, listen.
Yes, yes. I love that we're going here because the angels want to say straight out to everybody, they'll give us these examples like that one where it's obvious why we should be listening because it's a reminder to listen and to act from that and to trust that, not to second guess it and override it and do all the mind stuff we do. But most of the time, we're not going to know. So, one of the very first images they showed me, it was almost like those little flip books where there were like stick figures and it would make a movie if you flipped it. I was shown a visual like that of me walking down the street and feeling inspired to pick up a gum wrapper and throw it in a trash can that was right next to it, like someone had just missed the trash can. And so in the first version of the little clip, they showed me walking down the street, bending down, picking up the wrapper, throwing it in the trash. And then they showed me a second version where I walk down the street, I feel the inspiration, I look at the wrapper and I keep going.
Hmm.
A guy comes by behind me and he bends down to pick up the gum wrapper to throw it away and he throws out his back and he loses his job and he loses his house and he loses his family.
Hmm.
And the message was you may never know the ripple effects of you following your guidance, but please follow your guidance.
Mm, that's a really good point. Yeah, because most of the time I'm not thinking about much other than me. Most of the time, that's not the truth anymore, but it is. I mean, that's where. What am I going to get out of this? I'm not thinking about my action and how that could actually have that. That's a great example of you just never know when you're listening,
And the
when you're
angels
letting
really
it
want to
happen.
say to you that the ripple effects of what you do are far more massive than you will see in this physical form, specifically to you, but to all your listeners as well. When you walk into the bank and you smile at the teller and you're pleasant versus cranky. When
Yeah,
you walk down the street and you smile at a stranger, you don't know what a difference you just made in somebody's life, but that could have been life-saving.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The way you carry yourself and all that, and I don't. That angel or and I may I'm wondering because like in 12-step recovery I will generally use the term higher power mainly
Mhm.
because if and like I was brought up Catholic and Protestant one side of my family and the other side, so the word God rolls easy, although for a great period of my time I avoided that word like the plague. Anything that was Jesus or God, was just had to be outside my walls. Not that's changed, and God is just easy to say. And most people, but you still end up with people like forming opinions, and I can't help that. But that's the reason, like in 12-step recovery, most people come in with some kind of resentment about spirituality or higher power, any kind of angels, any kind of that kind of thing. They're not walking in the door receptive to that. So I what and I don't know that anybody puts it this. I don't rarely hear people put it this plainly, but we kind of soft sell this stuff and bait and switch this spirituality thing in 12-step recovery. We say, come on in, and you don't have to believe in anything, and you don't. That's the truth. But if you will walk with me, and I'm not going to put anything of mine on you. I'm going to do my best not to put anything of mine on you. You need to find your own. I'm just going to be a guide here. And every single time they hook up with some energy, then they may call it various things. Who knows? It might be that this guy has his higher power through music, and this other one has it through nature, and this other one believes in God and goes back to church and gets baptized and does that route. But they all end up doing something where they're getting closer to. And I'm a first person to say, I have no idea what this is really. I'm not going to stand around and say, I know, right? My experience, I can share my experience with you and what's happened to me, and I fully believe in it. One of my favorite things is that, I didn't believe either. I didn't think this power could keep me out of prison. I didn't think that would happen. I didn't think it at all. But these little things started happening, and I kept on looking over my shoulder in my rearview mirror, seeing this evidence pile up deeper and deeper. That when I had, and this comes from my yoga background, I like this term, when my compass needle is in my north alignment, and I'm following that to the best of my abilities, listening for messages and that kind of thing. Well, then, my I always say the skids are greased. It tends to be pretty smooth rolling, And as I look back there, I see all that evidence piled up, and I start going, well, something is happening, you know. I can't deny that. I have a list in my phone, a miracle list of these things that my sponsor encouraged me. He doesn't remember encouraging me to do this, and I wonder sometimes about that kind of stuff too. Was it
Mhm.
really him or
He
uh
was the earth angel, the
yeah,
mouthpiece for the divine.
because he says he doesn't remember suggesting that to me. He says, I love it, but I swear I don't remember suggesting that to you. But these cool things were happening, and I started jotting them down, and I've just keep on adding to it. I add to it still today. And whenever you know uh, sometimes you'll get down, right? Sometimes it does. Sometimes you're low energy and you're just like, oh man. And I can pull that miracle list up and read back through that. And it's kind of like a long-term gratitude list, because it's not that I forgot the stuff. It's just kind of fell underneath of whatever's going on now. And when I pull that evidence back up, then the hope gets back in me. And
Yes. And
we
hope is one of
can,
the most powerful transformative energies in the cosmos. People people use it differently, right? Like I hope this is going to happen. But true hope, what you just expressed, that when I look at the list of amazing things that have happened to me and for me in my life, that hope is it's the spark. It's the knowing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I know, and I've had this conversation with a couple of people here lately. I'll just use God. God didn't bring me this far to drop me off. The universe didn't, higher power, angels, whatever. They did not bring me to this point to say, okay, Dan, bus stops here. They didn't.
Good luck.
And yeah, so it's a kind of one of my visualizations, and I wonder about, I talk to new people all the time, but my listeners hear me over and over and over again. That it kind of is my thought in my mind is I live in the house I grew up in, and I can remember coming around the corner on Christmas morning, so as a child, all just full of joy and anticipation. And yeah, it was material stuff, but it didn't matter. You were just excited about peeking around the corner and seeing that Christmas tree with the presents under it on Christmas morning. And I kind of try to use that approach to somewhat, or not try, it's happened. I didn't try anything. It happened. That's the way I approach life today at some level. I'm peeking around every corner, wondering what gift is around that corner. Why am I here? There's some reason that life brought me here. My job is to stay aware and keep my eyes open for what it is that I'm here for. And that's another thing my sponsor taught me all the time too, was to keep, when I'm someplace, there's a reason you're there. I encourage you to keep your eyes open, be aware, and try to figure out what that is. See if
Yeah.
you don't find it.
Yes. And you used one phrase, so there's a million things the angels are jumping up and down for me to say. They're so cute. And um, figure out more and more, they're asking us to let go of trying to figure anything out between our ears. They're asking us to live more and more from guidance. And that sounds so complicated, but it's so much simpler, actually. Because when we're trying to figure it out, we
It's
don't
hard.
know all the moving parts and pieces in the universe. And we only know what we've experienced before. So we end up, experiencing more of the same, basically. So for people who really want things to be different, and it feels like your audience especially really wants things to be different, all you have to do is show up as much as you can in that moment.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're feeling triggered, soothe yourself. I'm doing this. This is my go-to because it's called havening, and it's an amazing way to reset your nervous system. It's been developed by therapists and neuroscientists. It tells the body's physiology. And Gabor Mate, I think, recommends this too.
Hmm.
So he's really big in trauma and
Yep.
addiction recovery. So soothe yourself. If you're in the middle of something, give yourself a timeout, right? If you're in a meeting, you can say, I think I'm going to throw up, and nobody's going to say, no, you can't leave the room right now, right? So soothe yourself, calm your nervous system, and then tune into your guidance. So it's really this simple. And this is the magic question. Is there something for me to say or do right now?
Mm.
If you don't remember anything else we talked about today, soothe yourself, come back to where you're feeling present enough, right? If you've gone into fight or flight or freeze, just bring yourself down below that threshold of that being that triggered, and you can receive your guidance. And even when you're in fight or flight or freeze, it's not that you can't receive your guidance. It's that your guidance is more like get out of physical danger, right?
Yeah.
Your guidance is get in the car and go now, as opposed to be present with this person, walk over to that person over there, say these words, like your sponsor saying, make a list of the miracles you're experiencing. We are asked, gifted with the opportunity to be that for each other all the time. And all we ever have to do is tune in and say, is there something for me to do or say right now? And I usually say, angels, is there something for me to do or say right now? Because angels feels light and joyful to me.
Yeah, I get
But
it.
it doesn't matter if you say universe or nature or infinite mother or whatever works for you.
Source energy or, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a full believer of that. And that's why I say I don't know, because it doesn't seem to really matter what words you're using and all that, the terms and all that. I'm convinced after being in recovery for almost 15 years, I've seen too many cases where it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
One of my deals is, and then one of the places where I do struggle, and I'm always cool with it. It's no big deal. Most time nowadays, I actually just agree with everybody, because I understand what they're saying to me. But if they're like pinpointed and are just certain that this is what it is, and a lot of times people want you to agree, right? You know what I mean? You understand that this is the way it is, and this is how it is, don't you? And usually it's just an easy way out to go, yeah, I understand. Because all they're doing is proclaiming to me what they believe. Why do I got to get in the way of that? Instead of having some kind of debate about what we believe. It's no
We're not
value
going to
in
change other people
that.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to the being the lighthouse of compassion, right? Compassion says, yes, I hear you. I see you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of come on me, and that's another thing. And you talk about like, what am I to say? I can't, and this is a typical thing you'll hear people say in 12-step meetings, and specifically my men's group, words will come out of my mouth that I didn't know I was getting ready to say. Like,
Mhm.
you'll say something and you're like, where in the world did that come from? And it'll be just what this other person needed to hear too, so many times. And
Exactly.
kind of like what my sponsor doesn't remember saying to me. Sometimes people come to me and go, remember when you told me? And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have a recollection of saying that.
Welcome to my world. Half the time, I don't remember what I say to people in coaching sessions because it's receiving their guidance for them.
Yeah. Yeah. When we do that, that's been, I don't know what I guess I just keep on using the word taught, but when we do, when I take somebody through the 12 steps, of my constant awareness is to ask for me to be, a tool. What do you, I know this is not Dan Reeves doing this. I know it isn't. I'm a channel. I'm a vessel. I'm some wiring to the other person. And so I try to make sure that I'm tuning into this, and let that force guide me into what I'm supposed to do any moment. One of the big ones, and the kind of a one that I really lean on in that, is when we do a fifth step, when you kind of do the confessional kind of thing. It's not a confession, but it's the closest thing that you can kind of say. But when you let somebody, kind of open up their closet and get all the skeletons out, and show them to you, and it takes a lot of trust and a lot of safety and a lot of things to make that happen. And the 12 steps seems to be um, a series of events that builds that safety, and that to where that when we get there, that person's ready enough and safe enough with me to know that they can do that. And then I got to really tap into source power, into God, into whatever. And so that I'm receiving that properly.
Right. Right. And so many of us have been trained, we'll use that word, often by our family of origin, sometimes by our significant others, to step in and try to fix things, right? Or even to show up and match the other person's energy. That's another way that we create connection and but that's not what's being asked in those moments, or really ever. We're being asked to be presence, present like here, be here now,
Yeah.
and presence with a capital P, like to be our unique aspect of the divine. The angels show me over and over that there's one giant sparkly jewel that is the divine, and we're each a different little facet of that. So we're
Mm.
each an individuated expression of the divine, is how they say it to me. So that's what we mean by oneness and individuation. We're going to get a little bit metaphysical for a second, but it's so easy to see in for me at least, hopefully for you or others. So if we're all this one big beautiful shiny jewel, and they say that because I really like big shiny jewels, then we're all connected, right? We're all one in that sense, but we're also each unique. Every facet of a giant diamond is different, right? It's its own unique facet, and it has its own unique viewpoint and perspective. It
Mm.
looks out of the jewel in a slightly different direction to the ones around it, and an opposite direction to the ones on the other side of the jewel. And just because we have different perspectives, coming back to I don't have to agree with you and I don't have to argue with you. I can simply see you and be with you. You have a different perspective. That's cool. That is our definition of diversity, inclusion, belonging. We are all part of this one magical, gorgeous, unconditional love body.
I agree.
And and we're asked to show up and be that vessel that you were talking about and that we've been talking about, to be that vessel, to be the earth angel, to speak somebody what somebody is ready to hear. But the angels also want to say, they choose the right tool for the job, right? God, the divine, doesn't pick up a hammer when a screwdriver is the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
So you've created a relationship and a level of trust, compassion, understanding, being with this person. And so you become this amazing tool of the divine to deliver what that person is ready to hear. So that's partly why it's always different, right?
Yeah.
It might be the same thing with different words. It might be a different story you share. Like you said, why did I just say that weird thing? I've said that to the angels a gazillion times. Why did I just say that weird thing about golf? I don't even know anything about golf. And inevitably, the person in front of me will say, my dad used to always say that, or I was just wondering about that. I'm like, oh, of course, you're so good.
Yeah. I, in some of those moments too, one of something that I notice is, and I've noticed it particularly in these fifth steps, is the person sitting across from me. I line up two recliners, comfortable recliners. I have some property in southern Indiana. We got about 50 something acres, and my dad, my brother, and I built a log cabin from scratch there in 1999. There's no electricity, no water, no cell service, no nothing. We haul water. I have a little generator I can run, and we heat it with wood, and that's where I do my fifth steps. I go down there, and if possible, we spend the night. We start in the afternoon, we eat dinner, we prepare ourselves. I do some ritual kind of ceremony stuff in the beginning of it, smudge them, and do some things to set the energy right and clear clear things out so that we can do the work we need to do tonight. And and at times sitting there, I will like see, and I've always been real curious about this and sometimes afraid to talk about it. I'll see a change in this person's very being, in the way they look, even. And sometimes I sit there and I don't, it for a moment, I won't really be recognizing Jim anymore. You know, I can see a vague resemblance and I know that that's Jim. Uh, but I'll see this morphing, and it's like almost some other, like, I don't know, whether when the forces come in, whatever is going on. And I've had people say the same thing back to me later, you know. When we were sitting there for a little while, uh, you completely changed and you look just like somebody else they knew from their past, or they knew, some kind of thing like that. There'll be these weird things that happens in that energy field that gets created with that, and and that's like going way beyond, like if you would, in some circles, if I would say that's the way I'm practicing the 12 steps, I'd be told I was doing it wrong because I'm
Yeah.
introducing all this stuff that's not part of it. It's kind of, again, here's the line and you got to walk. This is it. And don't step on one side or the other of it. And there's a lot of that 12 step recovery. There's a lot of, and I guess really a lot of places, right? Not just there, but that's where my knowledge base is. But I have brought the teachings and different things and different experiences that I've had in sweat lodges and yoga mats and sound baths and various other kinds of things like that. And whenever something touches me, man, I introduce it into my 12 step work. And I think it's like high octane. And why
And
wouldn't you do that, right?
right. Well, so the
Now
angels
those,
want us to hold those rule followers with great tenderness and compassion as well, right? They're doing the best they know how, and that is what works for them because they're afraid if they deviate even slightly, they're going to fall off the wagon, right? So
yep,
may the Lord
yep.
bless them and keep them
I
and
give
hold
them,
them. May the
yep,
angels wrap their wings around them, right? And the people who are brought to you to do the 5 step in your magical log cabin are the people who are ready for that, right? The divine knows, lines us all up, knows who's
yeah,
the right tool for the job and brings those people to that being that they're
yep,
ready for. And we don't have to figure it out. We don't have
no.
to look in there and go, are you ready for this? Are you the one? All we have to do is there something for me to do or say right now? And
I'm very thankful for that. I've learned that too because I'm a figure out guy. I'm kind of an engineering. That's what I do for a living most of my life. I'm a woodworker. I'm a handyman. So tools and all this stuff is, like you said, the hammer and the screwdriver. Those are two totally different things and not to be confused with one another. Uh,
right. And the people who
but
need
I
that
have to
rule
let go of
follower,
that. I
mhm,
have to let go of those rules and not worry about figuring it out when I'm working in this realm.
right. And they want to say two things about the way you do it. I hope you don't mind. One is the people who need the rule follower will be brought to the rule follower,
Yeah.
right? And the people who are ready for you will be brought to you. And the work that you've done and the love that you've poured into that space, like the space that you've created, is very fertile. It's very transformative on its own. So, such the angels have so much appreciation for everything that you've brought into that space, and they've brought you on this divinely guided journey of gathering all these tools and experiences and shifts so that you could benefit first and foremost, right? And so that you can be that beacon for others, so that you can call in clearly those who are ready for you.
Yeah, I like that. We built that place on dope and booze. There wasn't hardly a time I didn't have a beer in my hand building that place. And that's one of my another one of my little joke lines, sort of, is like, t- if it was now, I'd say, 26 years ago, I had no idea what God was doing, but okay, now I see it because I have men's retreats down there too. And there's a residual energy. And I like the way you say that, like, you know, uh, and I had a guy come sometimes, I ask people to help me with that stuff too. I don't try to go down there and do it all. I like ask, hey man, would you do a meditation meeting for me on Sunday morning? And I don't care what you do, make something up, come up with something. And a guy did one morning. It still touches me. The poor guy, the guy was just awesome, man. One thing he was a dog whisperer. He was a dog trainer that was like magic, but he wasn't, this is all kind of the same thing. He was a mess at one point, right? Uh, And then he found out he has this wonderful gift. And then I don't know, man, it's probably been 4 years ago now. Somebody pulled out in front of him on his motorcycle and he passed on to the next realm, to the next journey. But he talked about a big bubble that was around us down there. And I like that thought, like the angels doing that too. And I never really, because there's residual energy down there from the work that's been done. That's something that somebody will come for the first time, they will feel it. They don't know what they're feeling, but they will feel it. And if they're open enough, they will share that with me. Usually a lot of times it'll be after that they'll go, when I first got there, I felt, uh, so I like that. It's just a different perspective for me, and it's my Southern Indiana hillbilly, but the angel angle.
Well, I'm living in rural Appalachia, so I feel you. And
Is that
yes,
where you're from?
no, I'm a Valley girl. I don't know if you remember the movie and the song and all that, but yeah, I'm from
Yeah.
the San Fernando Valley, which is the north
Okay.
suburban part of LA. Although my best friend in high school had sheep in her backyard, and I was in high school when Urban Cowboy came out, so I've been a country music fan since I was
I
16.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Everybody, one of the ways I talk about it just is like there's like a static in a lot of it. That's the way I looked at my life at the time. And like a piece of it was like here's another old dating ourselves back when the TV would go off at night and you were asleep and all of a sudden it was just fuzz and
Hmm.
hiss. And then uh, that's kind of the way I felt like my life was now looking back into it. At the time, you don't notice that hiss and that static and that fuzz is like basically absorbing, it's like blocking everything from coming in and blocking me from being able to see out. Uh, and you kind of had to clear that, and that's what the 12 steps did for me was clear that out because as you had said a little bit ago, mentioned, to me it was like a springboard to something else. I had to have that fog cleared before anything else could happen. None of the rest of these cool things and these teachings and learnings and opportunities and all this stuff wouldn't have happened without that initial getting that cloud removed. And that, so booze and dope was that for me, but I think I'm not, it's my supposition that everybody has a certain amount of that in their life, and some of it could almost be chalked up to nothing but maturity, you know, because when you're young and you're growing, and I see some people that seem to be like, you do, it's everybody's on some other level. And you had mentioned something about separate other lives. So I
Hmm.
don't, that makes some sense to me, that somebody else might be further along in the path, way greater than anything we understand. Just because they're seven doesn't mean that they're
Yeah,
not
they're not an
older than
ancient
me.
soul. Yes,
Uh,
yes.
and so, but getting that off of you seems to be the first step for most of us is to somehow or another get that, whether if it's depression, anxiety, trauma, combination, all that, whatever it is that happens to have you fuzzed up.
Yes.
Uh, that seems to be the real, like we do. Step one, that's you got. Until then, my eyes won't open. I can't see or hear. There's an old AA speaker that wrote a book called A New Pair of Glasses. And it resonates with me too, because that's exactly kind of like what it was. All of a sudden, I was seeing things completely different than, I mean, it was like a child waking up or something. I honestly, I felt like I got sober at 45 years old. I felt like I went from 12 years old to 45, and I didn't know it until I was 46, right? Uh,
Ah,
uh,
yeah,
that
I hear you. And angels want to jump in and say, we call it gunk, all that static, and it's limiting beliefs that we picked up, when we were in utero. We start acclimating to our family of origin, right? You're inside your mom. Of course, you're acclimating to whatever's going on with her. And subconscious programming until we're 7 years old, we don't have any filters. We just take in everything happening around us as this is how the world is. This is the rules that I make for myself that make perfect sense to a 2 year old or a 4 year old, but are still running the show when we're 45. And so the angels and I do a lot of gunk clearing. Like that's all the stuff that says I'm not enough, I'm small, I'm powerless. I, the world is an awful place.
I don't fit in.
It's a cruel world, cold, cruel world. Right. I don't fit in. I'm bad. I'm wrong somehow. all that stuff is so not the truth. You are a precious, unique aspect of the divine. And I get it that we don't always feel that way. Believe me, I get that. We experience a lot of ugly stuff on this planet. I don't think there's a being on this planet who hasn't been touched by trauma.
I agree
And
too.
yeah.
Like,
And
I don't know, maybe one or so squirt through now and again, but
it's really that few. Even just being connected to the collective consciousness on this planet is traumatic for a soul that comes into this life, right? There's so much density, there's so much fear, there's so much manufactured control and domination. And so,
messaging.
yeah, and we are told that we are small and separate. We are told, some people call it the dream of separation, right? Because we're not separate. We're always connected to God, the divine, everyone else, the trees, the planet. We're all connected and lovingly supported. And the stories that we've heard our whole lives that are different from that is the static and the filters that we see reality through. And they can be dissolved easily and effortlessly by the angels. So if there's something bothering you, whatever it is, we have a delegation statement. It's so funny because I keep wiping myself because we're moving so much energy. I'm getting hot.
Oh, yeah. I'm a little warm too.
This is good. This is good. And so the angels want me to share the angel delegation statement. I know I said if there's only one thing you remember. If there's only two things to remember, include this one. Thank you, angels, for taking care of you fill in the blank.
Hmm.
Thank you, angels, for taking care of my mom. Thank you, angels, for taking care of my cravings. Thank you, angels, for taking care of my body. Thank you, angels, for taking care of, you can fill it in with anything. You can change it if you need to, if that feels weird to you. Thank you, universe. Thank you. Thank you for blessing me. Whatever works for you, but this is the gist of it. And they want me to explain why we say it this way. Most people pray from a place of lack. I need this. I want this, right? When we say, thank you, angels, for taking care of, we're acknowledging that they're already on it. And on some very deep cellular level, we relax a little bit. So when you say that, if you feel any kind of relief or a little bit of expansion, right? Because sometimes we feel really like almost like we're in the fetal position or we want to be. If you feel that starting to loosen up a little bit, it's helping already. If you don't feel that, play with what you're saying until it feels like a little bit of relief and a little more relief. And just keep delegating everything to the angels. Thank you for getting me to my job interview in divine perfect timing. Thank you for giving me just enough red lights so I don't get there too early, right? Thank you for the red lights. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. If you greet everything in life with thank you, and this goes back to the gratitude we're talking about, right? If I meet everything in life with resistance, it's for those of you who speak car, I speak fluent car. Resistance is the friction in the system that slows things down and wears things out faster. And we really feel that. If you're feeling exhausted, odds are 99.9% that you've got a lot of resistance running right now.
Yeah.
So anything that you can delegate to the angels and feel a little bit less resistance, that is the magic of acceptance. The other thing that really is the magic of acceptance is it is what it is. I must say this a gazillion times, right?
Yep.
It is what it is. So, like the serenity prayer, it is what it is. Is there
Yep.
something for me to do or say right now? Right? That's the how I change the things I can change. And the angels want to add that when I say, is there something for me to do or say right now? 85% of the time, there is not. We are not the only tool. We are not always the best tool for the job. So I may be shown something so that I can be presence and the person can feel seen and heard. And that was all that was asked of me in that moment. I may be shown something because it's a piece of information that I'm going to need 3 weeks from now that I have no way of knowing right now. So often, more often than not, there's nothing for me to do or say right now. I simply be as present as I can be. And they want to add, we can choose to share an energy. So we're very powerful emitters of energy. You can walk into a room and tell that the people in there were just arguing without having heard a thing or seen a thing, right? We feel the anger or the conflict. We can exude that unconditional love and compassion. And the angels want to add, my favorite angel joke, okay, is love is the answer. What was the question? Literally, we can move through the world as best we can and choose whatever we want to radiate. So I used to go to trade shows in Las Vegas all the time, and I would radiate joy and peace because those are not the energies you feel when you walk through a trade show in Las Vegas, typically. And I would have the most amazing connections with total strangers because I was walking through there with the intention of being joy and peace. So they're inviting you to play with that, right? Whatever it is you want to play with, whatever you want to choose to activate and radiate for the day, it could be anything. It could be compassion. It can be, they're asking for us to choose what we want to feel, not what we think other people need.
Mm.
And that's super important because so many of us have been trained to put others first. And that's better than manipulating and controlling everybody else, right? But for those of us who are the light, we're being asked not to self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is when we wear ourselves down to the point that we might really need a little something, right? We might not be able to resist a craving. We might need whatever it may be, but we're not being love for ourselves first. And anytime we're not being divine unconditional love for ourselves first, we are at the mercy. We are putting, let me put it the other way. When we are being divine unconditional love for ourselves first, we're not lashing out at other people in anger. We're not trying to control and dominate them because we don't feel safe, right? People only do that because they want to feel safe. Some people need a whole lot of it to feel safe, but we, when we're being loved for ourselves first, we are able to be with somebody in a way that automatically and magically creates boundaries, right? We don't have to draw a line in the sand and be defensive and protective and not let people cross that line. We just notice that we're feeling some sort of turbulence and we soothe ourselves and we be love for ourselves. And then we can see with incredible compassion what's going on in that other person. We can see that they're terrified, and what they do when they're terrified is lash out in anger or try to micromanage every bit of everything. And we may say no thank you to whatever it is they're offering us, but we do it with a very different energy than when we're not taking care of ourselves first.
Yeah. It's that old pouring from an empty cup deal.
Yeah. And when I'm being reactive to you, we could use that too, right? When I'm being reactive, I'm having that same old knee-jerk reaction. You're pushing my
Mhm.
button and I'm doing the thing, and we're having the same conversation for the 400,000th time. And we know it's going to end the same way. And I really would love to break this cycle. The way to break that cycle is to be kind, love, compassion for ourselves first. And then they say the thing they always say, and we smile. And it diffuses the situation. I don't have to argue with you. I don't have to convince you. I don't have to react. I can respond differently. And
Yeah.
that's so powerful. And that's how we be the change. And that's how we completely change all of our relationships and the world we live in. It's simple, and yet it takes a bit of practice.
Yeah. That's what the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, Anonymous, and I don't know if it came from there or not, but it's the first place I can actually find it because I've done some research on the phrase of it's simple but not easy. Uh, and I really did. I've heard some people say it, and I'm like, I wonder if that's anchored in this book because and I know it's a pretty simple statement, but I could not find it in any other literature uh, besides the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. I was either born with or developed a fix-it switch. And I think a lot of men have that, and maybe people in general, but I'm a man, so I can speak from that direction a little more authoritative. Uh, and I learned that that's what I would do, in my, like, if we're standing around in a circle and somebody says, that their dryer ain't working, I'm asking for the make and model number, I'm already trying to figure out what we're going to do about it. And that can be good, again, and that's why this here, because, it seems that I do need this element of helping these other human beings and doing this in my life in order. I need that too. But at the same time, I can't sacrifice myself in that effort. I've got to find that spot. And it's not, it's simple but not easy again, to find that balance. So where I'm taking care of me so that when I'm called and I'm there to show up, that I'm in a position that I can actually be helpful rather than, like I said, reactive or harmful or whatever,
Or
and of
cranky.
course we all walk around and we all have people in our lives. And I can't help but think of one, that, you know, everybody else's stuff is always their problem. Like, they're taking on this person and that person. And can you believe? And I don't know what I'm going to do about so and so. And it just got all that going on, and I cannot like break the cycle of being in that, allowing all these. You'd said something earlier in the podcast, and I can't remember what you said, but it made me think about when my mind visualizes of a pinball in a pinball machine where I'm just bouncing off of every force that I happen to bump into, totally out of control. I'm not driving anything, bang, bang, just whatever catalyst is shoots me off this direction until I run into that. And that's not anymore, right? I don't, but I do remember my life being like that. And I don't have to react and I can like maintain my energy field no matter really what's going on. Now, again, I will step off that now and again. I've got an addicted daughter. You want to have something that'll cause you to step off once in a while? Try that on for size. Uh, but trying to manage her and try to,
Oh,
and
yeah.
know what she ought to do, but also know that I've got no power over that. Nothing. As a
Yeah.
matter of
She's
fact,
on her path.
my I probably have a greater chance of screwing it up than I do of helping it, as her dad, especially. Because like
The,
another
the
thing,
angels.
in 12-step recovery, it's not people's brothers and sisters and moms and dads and wives and husbands and stuff that end up helping these people. It's some stranger is
Right.
who ends up helping somebody. That's another one of these things. A lot of times people might get you in the door, mom, brother, friend might get you in the door, and people will all the time come into this thing about, well, Jim wants me to sponsor him. And I like, but you've all been friends since childhood, right? And I said, yeah, yeah. I like, yeah, you can give that a shot. I don't see it work real often
Yeah.
because it'll be some stranger. But if he will come, that's the other thing. The angels will bring him. Maybe that's what the angels are doing, right? That this person is their guide to get them to here so they can meet this person. And that's where the person that's been set up to help them is. So to know that and to get out of the way of it, and also at the same time be in a position where you can also facilitate it a little bit. Sometimes I'm called to do that, right? To go and I'll give you a ride. Uh, I'm not the man. I know in me, I'm not your guy, but I can pick you up and take you there tonight, and be open enough to where I can do that. But that fix it switch is still at times because I do. I have a number of things that pay the bills. I don't like that question. What do you do? I do a lot of things. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I do a lot of yoga. I'm a podcaster. I have a job in an engineering firm part time. I handyman part time. I've got a full blown wood shop in my backyard where I do custom woodwork part time. I've got all these things in my life, and some of them pay the bills. Some of them probably contribute to that too, with that in a way that I don't understand. That how that all weaves together. Uh, but to not, so some days my fix it switch has got to be turned on. When I'm at your house and your washer's not working, well, then I need to flip that switch, fix it switch, and get that thing in gear. I'm sitting there in front of another human being. Rarely is my fix it switch the tool I need to be grabbing today. Almost
And the
never.
angels want to jump in and add to that. That person you had talked about who's I got to fix that, and I can't believe that about that other person. That's a trauma response. They they really want us to be the lighthouse of compassion and recognize that that is usually an early childhood trauma response. I needed to make sure that mom and dad were okay so that I would be safe, so that I would be fed. So I jump in and I manage other people's emotions and I manage whatever it is. I make sure they eat. I do the dishes, whatever it is to make sure that they're not angry or violent or so depressed they can't get out of bed, whatever your experience was as a little person. And that's why it can be so hard to change those things. When it's something that comes from those formative years, it feels very primal to try and not be that anymore. Like it's life or death. I gotta be that. If I don't be that, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna be fed. I'm not gonna be clothed. I'm not gonna be able to keep living on this planet.
It
So,
reminds me of walking through a minefield, you know, that
ah,
I, there's a bomb somewhere and I got to be very careful and manage everything so that I don't step on it.
exactly. And so few people were born to ascended masters, right? We all had parents who had gunk. And so we're all, hanging out with the walking wounded until, well, everybody is doing the best they can from where they are. So the more we
Yeah.
can give them grace, the more we can be less affected by it and be that love and compassion in the world.
Yeah. 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 I kind of hit the jackpot in the parent department. My mom had some addiction issues, but she was a professional and it was pharmaceutical stuff. So like 25, 30 years ago, that wasn't really recognized that way, right? It was before what's we know today to some extent. We've actually known that forever. I've done a lot of research on the opioid thing and that, and about how we knew that and then kind of just swept it under the rug for a while and then pretended like they didn't know it. I want to think that it just came to being, but it ain't. That stuff's been around forever, and humans been getting in trouble with it as long as we've been getting in trouble with alcohol. But I definitely hit the jackpot in the dad department. My father's 88. He lives with me. Uh, he is one of my best friends. Has taught me, I can fix almost anything. I mean, like, really, I mean, I can fix stuff. And with my hands, washers, cabinet doors, bathroom doors, tile jobs. Uh, I can fix things, and he taught me how to do that. And I watch him have that rare, and and he don't talk much about, he does talk when I hear, but he's one of them dudes that seems to take the right action all the time, and I can always remember him doing that forever. Like always, just like making the next right move. Has never gotten himself spun up. He's never had any issues with stuff. Everything's been pretty smooth. And still sitting down there last night talking to him, and he tells me old stories, and I did about 8 hours of podcast with him, set him down and had him talk and tell stories and stuff. And I just wanted it for me, really. But it's on the podcast about those recordings with Dad. Uh, but to watch him do that, and where I'm going with this is that sometimes, and I get it, and it's true that you can throw this stuff that's stronger language, and I'm wanting to convey, but we can place this stuff on our parents, that, and I got a podcaster I like to listen to that brought this parenthood thing up a couple times in a way, but like I didn't have that bad stuff, but I still ended up in this alcoholic substance abuser boat, without having the trauma. Now I got some stuff. I didn't squeak through without stuff, but it wasn't from my parents. Uh,
And this is definitely not to blame or shame parents, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing of a big thing about like when I'm working with people is to understand that this is cause and conditions. We're not playing a blame game here. But the fact of the matter is, this had an impact of bringing you to where you're here today. And we need to look at it on like a non-biased kind of thing and not because I had trouble with that in the beginning of not being able to look at what I did pick up from my parents that maybe wasn't serving me today because I was so protective of them being good parents. And eventually, as that cloud lifted and I got clearer headed and was more and more open, then I could actually delve into that stuff. It was a few years into my recovery before I could actually take a look at those things. And what I like this guy says, he's talking about like we really are quick to like throw the blame at parents today, you know? And the one thing is like and we completely discount like the good we've even even if it's maybe not, you wouldn't be who you are today without that either, right? So even the bad things, and then this is another thing that happens in 12-step recovery. And you had said that you'd like hit this point where this divorce was coming up, or this marriage with this relationship was ending, and you had it sounded like what I heard anyway was you had a kind of a leveling up at that point. Whatever, it's always funny to talk about it, right? Because I don't want to like put my last thing I want to do is pretend like I'm on some pedestal because I'm not. I don't want to be put there. I don't want to pretend like I'm better or leveled up from you or that kind of stuff. That's not the energy I'm talking about. But it's really tough. I find it difficult to like talk about this stuff without like using some of that language. But most of the time, a common thing is what looked like could be the worst thing could ever happen to you ends up being the best thing that can happen to you. So, to like put that perspective on, maybe you had a real crappy parents in childhood, but also that might be the thing that makes you so great today, that, and rather than looking at it from that negative angle and the negative bias that we have so strongly in us, to also like leave some room for that goodness that come from what might have appeared to be a bad thing.
Absolutely. The angels want us to, if we're having trouble seeing that, right? Because sometimes, especially when we're right in the middle of it, it's hard to see the gift of any
Mhm.
experience. So simple. Thank you, angels, for showing me the gift of every experience
Yeah.
in divine perfect timing, right? Because sometimes I'm just not ready to see it yet. Sometimes I'm really happy in my anger. And sometimes anger is moving me in the right direction. When I've been in despair and sadness and can barely get out of bed, anger feels energizing. Anger
Yeah. Can
starts to
motivate you.
move me. Yeah. And then I can move up to the less dense energies. Then I can move toward hope. But I'm not
And
going to get from despair to hope. It takes a little movement along the emotional scale to get there.
yeah, yeah, it does seem like that's kind of one of the things I like about a yoga practice is sometimes the twisting and ringing and stuff feels like it moves energy around in me that allows it to, and they teach that, but I don't know if there's really any science, if there's any real stuff that can, and sometimes I just don't care. If it's working, I really don't care. I'm not going to go see if it's real. Is this scientifically proven? But you hang around long enough and you get bounced off of it once in a while. But yeah, that because they'll say that you're moving your lymph nodes, and you're twisting them, and that gets your stuff, the toxins that are built up in your body, out into your system that is built to eliminate those toxins. And that sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't know that
Oh,
it
the angels
is.
want to add
But I
that,
think it's,
that
there's
we've
also
known.
just energy, not necessarily like toxins that you could like measure with a lab test, right?
Exactly.
That's more where I'm
Exactly.
going. There's things in me that moves and twists and gets that stuff like released so that I can let go of it rather than hold tight to it. Because I tend to, that's another funny thing. It's like we get a problem and we really like want to
Yeah.
pet it and feed it and cultivate it, like we said, my head used to be a very fertile ground for problems. They
Yes.
would grow and grow and grow, man, and I don't do that anymore. I don't allow that to happen.
Yay. That's another thing, right? If you see yourself as a problem solver, yeah, it's a skill. Yeah, it's a superpower. And problem solvers always get more problems to solve.
Yeah,
It's from the careful what you ask for files,
yeah,
right? At one time, I used to do a morning practice where I would tell myself the story of who and how I am. My, sort of my best experience. To go back to describing like those up leveling, I see it less as up leveling and more as shedding the stuff that's not authentically me. So the more gunk I get rid of, the more the beautiful divine being that I was created to be can shine through. And yeah, that may look like up leveling, but it really feels like authenticity. Yeah, I can
yeah,
be authentic and have a tantrum in Walmart. That is one version of me, one aspect of me being authentic. But the true Sue, with capital T, is love and is presence and is able to deliver the messages or smile at the person when they need the smile. So it's simple and it can be very easy.
it
And
can be.
They wanted
But
me to
some
go
of
back
this,
to that thing I said and edit something I said because I did say you can't get from despair to hope, and they want to say that's not true. Hope is always available. You can't get from despair to bliss in a heartbeat
Hmm.
unless you happen to be bipolar, in which case you're really good at going from one end of the scale to the other. It's a superpower of sorts, right? It means you feel deeply, really, is what that means. And once you learn how to harness that energy, it is a superpower. Um, but they wanted to say that it really is easy and simple. And humans are incredibly good at making things complicated.
yeah, there's
We
a great line in the
value
big book.
that.
Yeah, there's a great line in the big book. It says, "We make a hard going of life."
Yeah, what is that thing where, the ball goes down the tube and then it drops and it triggers a seesaw and a thing flips and there's a name for those machines
Yeah,
that
there
are
is. But
complicated and they go around the whole room and at the
I
end a
love
piece
those
of
things.
toast pops out. I know. And that's the thing. Humans are really good at that super complicated thing when really all you had to do was push the button and the toast pops out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is funny because there's this dynamic and there's just some funny stuff that doesn't make sense. Like I feel like and one of my favorite things to say is it feels like I got sober a minute ago and a million years ago at the same time. And in the beginning, this stuff felt really hard, but it's not hard. Like I don't fight. And there's the, and this is another piece of stuff that I hear, in certain 12-step rooms, you'll hear people proclaim that you got to battle this thing every day. You got to fight and there are times where I had to do that. And there are times where you're probably going to have to do that as well. But I don't like the energy put up that like, this is the rest of your life battling this because that's not been true to me. The battle was fought and is over. Uh, and it's not hard today. Uh, Actually, it's
and
pretty doggone easy, actually,
thank
to
you for saying that.
being
Yay.
where I am today. There's another line in it, I'm 12-step indoctrinated, uh, that, and when I did that, I forgot I lost it.
Not hard
It'll come
anymore.
back.
It's easy now.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, that energy of battle, of war, keeps our systems on high alert all the time, hyper vigilant. And that is very, very hard on the nervous system. It's exhausting and it's being defensive and resistant to life every moment of every day. And you're right, there's probably a time for that, right? There's a time for us to embody our inner warrior. And when we can get past that, then we can be love. So being war is not being love, right? And being in warrior mode all the time is bringing that energy everywhere. And that means that your relationships feel more confrontational, your work life feels more confrontational, your reaction to the house and the divine feels more confrontational. Being love is not being a pushover. That's the big lie that we've been told, that love is weak and battle is strong. Love is the most powerful energy in the cosmos. Divine unconditional love, not the weird manipulation and control and obsession and addiction love that we call romantic relationship here. Um, but love wins, right? Love is, and it's not that there's something to win or lose. It's that when we be love, we are a lighthouse, we are a permission to others to put down the armor that's so heavy that we've been carrying around for years and to trust not in ourselves necessarily, not in the person that we're talking to necessarily, but in that higher power. I don't have to work on my trust issues. I don't have to figure out between my ears who I can trust and who I can't. I can listen to my body because my body will tell me, get the hell away from that person. Or, oh, wow, I want to hug that person, right? My body will tell me, or any other thing. My body will give me the unfiltered truth of the moment. Oh, I'm so glad we went here. Because the mind sees through all those filters, the limiting beliefs, the subconscious programming, the rules we made when we were 3 years old. The body has no filters. And that's why the body is the best source of tuning into our guidance. It doesn't matter if you believe in a higher power, you're getting your guidance through your body every minute of every day. You're feeling like contracting. That's a no thank you to whatever you were just thinking or what that person said. When you want to curl up in fetal position, that's a clue. When you start to feel like, I want to be in Wonder Woman position, that's a yes, that's a clue. When it feels heavy, that's a no. When it feels lighter, that's a yes. So we have all of these really simple tools for accessing our guidance moment by moment. So the it's simple and it can be easy when we notice we're getting that everywhere we go, all day, every day. That made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. That just gave me a wave of goosebumps. That felt yummy, like yummy or yucky. If you've ever fed a toddler, you know it's hardwired in. When it's yucky, it comes right back out. We still have that as adults. When something is yucky is no, yummy is yes.
Yeah. It's like our antenna, you use a gunk. It's like my antenna was gunked up. and and for whatever reason, and I also have a little thing about people talking about, you triggered this too, is people talk about like working on themselves, and it's a little thing of, it's a weird thing because like, yes, you have to like be the action figure and do the things, right? I have to get up and use these muscles to do the things, whether if it's writing in a journal or it's sitting and meditating or it's talking to a therapist or it's with my sponsor, it's working a step. I have to like be the action figure to do it, but I'm not really doing it. I'm not really doing the work. I'm doing this, relying on this energy, this source energy, the angels, God, whatever. That's where the work is actually happening. And that, like, once I kind of figured, or, once I relaxed into that, that is, this is not all on me to fix me, because
Yes.
that's a too big a job, but I didn't know that, and that's kind of the same thing with the person I was talking about that's trying to fix other people, you know, uh, they can't fix themselves, let alone these other people. Uh, we've been taught that's like the number one rule that I remember all my life. You can't change anybody else.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and now that's also got some latitude in it also because I've had an impact on some other people at the same time, right? So that's some of this more this dichotomy stuff. But when we say we're working on ourselves, the kind of things in 12-step recovery, if I could have worked on myself and got myself okay, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this meeting. If I could have done it, why am I here? So I got to tap into, and the other thing is this community piece of it, that I need these other people, both like in my brain, again, visualization. I see all these people walking in the dark with lanterns, and I'm looking at the lantern in front of me, following that. And some other people are in the lantern, and it's not a matter of who's in front or back. It's not the deal. But I need that lantern, that light held out there in front of me so that I can see where I'm going. And that's what happens in these communities, in my yoga community, 12-step community, the different things. Heck, I'm in a traditional bow shooting club, and the men in there bring stuff to me, right? That's not what we're not there for self-help or getting, the goal is not necessarily to be better dudes, but it seems to be happening as we hang out and commune together and rub off on one another. You talked about those. This is something that's happened to me all my life, is when I've been around people, and just to use another 12-step term, that I didn't know that's what it was, but that they had something I wanted, you know, I'll get, and I don't, my term today is the ASMR tingles, because I can watch those ASMR videos with some teachers and stuff, and I get that. And I lean into that stuff today, man. A lot of times come out and I will get these chills up the back of my spine that I might as well be like a cat purring. Just and you've got me too. There's a couple ways that that can happen in various things. If somebody plays an instrument for me or sings to me one on one, like I don't get it at a concert. I might get a little wave of it once in a while if I'm really jacked up, but if somebody plays an instrument for me one-on-one, I had a gal on the podcast the other night, was a vocal coach, but then she found this avenue of finding your voice through this, which was a bigger thing than just singing. She's not just teaching you how to sing. And she sang me a song on the internet. And this is the first time that it happens, that this has happened this way. I've had people here and I've been in other places, and I had a 20-year-old sponsee come over and ask if he could play my piano. And when he did, he could have played my piano the rest of the day and into tomorrow, and I wouldn't have moved. Because those tingles are going up and I'm stuck. But where I'm going with that is I've met people in my life that happened to. And before I knew what was going on, I like questioned a lot of that. Like there was times I was wondering, like questioning my sexuality over it, right? That why is this dude making me feel like this? Now today I see, and the best thing I can say is this was a solid man. That's what it was. He was a solid man, and I was attracted to his solidness, his masculinity. He had something I wanted, and maybe the angels are tickling the back of my neck to tell me that. Um,
Well, and so I love that you brought this up because what he was doing was allowing the divine to express through him. And of course, that's attractive, right? Music is a perfect conduit for that unconditional love energy to flow. Not all music, some music feels angry. When I so the angels want to go there for a second, not a detour. Because you were talking about getting stuck stuff out of your system through yoga. They really want to address that because we all have stuck energy in us. It's mostly emotion flavored, right? So we have stuck anger from those times when we couldn't say what we really thought, or we made ourselves not say because we were little and we were going to get in trouble. We have stuck sadness, we have stuck shame, we have stuck guilt, all the things. Music is one of the best ways to get that stuff out of your system. So if I feel angry, I am dancing around to Judas Priest, right? And it usually only takes like 3 songs to get all of whatever was just in my system out of me. If you're feeling really sad and you don't want to express that in a business meeting or even with your significant other, listen to music that makes you cry, watch Terms of Endearment, like whatever it is that's going to help you release that. There's a reason that we love all of those things because they're cathartic and they're actually very healing for our bodies. So when we have lots of that stuck stuff in our system, eventually it manifests as physical symptoms.
yeah,
You can't, in the same way that if your liver has too much toxicity, too much gunk in it, you start to have symptoms of jaundice or other symptoms. If you have too much anger in your system, it will show up as something.
yeah,
So,
the body keeps the score thing.
exactly. One of the
Yeah,
best and hardest to
yeah.
read books I've ever
Yeah,
read.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a reader. It's another blessing that for whatever reason, I love to tell the story of my grandma and grandpa. My dad's mom and dad had basically a library in their attic. And I would go to their house a lot, and I picked up books when I was a little kid and fell in love.
Yeah.
Well, I fell in love first with Louis L'Amour Westerns, the shoot 'em up
Wow.
cowboy stuff. And now today I have all of Grandpa's books. I have them on a shelf downstairs. All the ones, that whole Louis L'Amour collection is mine. But I love to read, and then mostly today it's audio most of the time. And where I'm going with this is like a couple weeks ago, a month ago, I don't know, time. Do you have any like connection to time? Because I've like lost all connection to time. I can't
Wait,
remember what day it is. If I didn't have a phone, I wouldn't know what I'm doing today. If I don't put it on the calendar, it don't happen. And a lot of my life today is basically just doing what I want to do too. That is so cool that I just like have this freedom and this life that where, if I want to run down to the cabin and stay a couple days, I can do that right now. If I have this flow where it's really, really living lightly right now. But where I was going with that is I had this thing and I found myself Googling. Listen to a book and it made me cry. And I mean, really cry. And I finished that book. I didn't want it to end. And I giggled at myself because I thought I would have never thought that I'm going to be sitting here Googling books that make you cry. Yeah. And I did, and I went through a few more, until it was like out of my system. And I don't know what was in my system. I don't
And
have
you don't
any
have
like
to.
clarity on why or what. I just went with it. And there was some benefit. There was something that needed to happen. And I went with it. And for a few nights, I'm sitting here up here reading, listening to books at night, allowing myself to cry. Uh,
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that with people because that's so important that we get all that gunk, stuck stuff out of our systems, right? And we don't have to know. I love that you said you have no idea what it was or why it was there. The mind is so good at finding reasons for it, but then we end up going down that rabbit hole. And we don't have to do that. The stuck energy is just asking to come out. Period. End of story. So, like we don't have to go back and excavate our childhood and figure out, what did mom say that made me think this, that made me do that 47 years later? Like, don't need to know. Don't need to know. That's part of why the fixing ourselves approach to everything from Western medicine to therapy is only good to a point. It keeps activating the therapy especially can keep activating that wound over and over, right? There comes a time where we get to choose, and we can choose that sooner rather than later, right? I choose forgiveness not because what you did was forgivable. It doesn't really matter. I choose forgiveness because carrying anger, rage, hatred is eating away inside me. I choose forgiveness for me.
yeah. Yeah. We have a huge piece of our work, and it's a little different, but our step 8, we really focus on forgiveness as we go out to do our amends.
Right.
Because if I'm still harboring that in my heart and I come to you to express what I might have done to you and harmed you, if I've got that, then I can't make that emotional connection. I can't clear that energy with you if I've got that big rotten knot in my gut, you know. So
Yeah.
there's
Or
going to
if I'm
be a
still
lot
armored
of
up.
work on it. Yeah.
Yeah. If I
And it
believe
doesn't
you
have to be
deserved
you. Yeah.
it.
And this doesn't necessarily have to do with you this interaction either.
No, but you're
That
still
down in
carrying it.
here can get in the way and infect that other thing that this here didn't have anything to do with me and my and your interactions. Uh,
Right. But the
so that
divine
clears
will
it.
and the angels will bring you similar experiences so that you can finish that scene in the play
Yeah. Yeah.
that
I like
happened
that.
30 years ago, and you can play it differently. So this is why we had that little conversation earlier. They will bring you a similar flavored experience so that you can play the scene differently, so that you can see how much power you actually have, not power over others, but power to be love, so that you can get resolution of something that maybe you couldn't when you were a kid because you were held down or you weren't allowed or whatever it was, right? It's those things that feel like different faces, different places, same old crap can really be a beautiful gift to let go of a big chunk of trauma and density that's in your system. And when I show up still in warrior mode every minute of every day, I'm armored up against this person across from me. I can't hug you when I got my armor on, right? I can't open my heart to you when I'm in battle mode. But even more importantly, I can't open my heart to myself, to my higher self, to the divine. I'm closed off. So
Yeah.
simple, not
Yeah.
always
Perfect. Just
easy. Could be easy. Angels make
talk
it
about
easier.
it. Talk about being in, I've heard a guy talk about that as being in a silo, that you got that wrapped around you and nothing can get in and nothing can get out. The couple phrases I was thinking about a minute ago out of the big book again was that we had stopped fighting everybody and everything. because that's what it felt like, was a battle. And then there's another line in it that I like that says, "We thought we could find an easier, softer way." And my experience is this actually is the easier, softer way. I was looking for it and I didn't know where. And when I kind of stopped looking for it and started doing this, then oh, there it is. I found it. This is much easier. Life was tough when you're doing that, when you're fighting that and you're in that battle mode. I like that, like constantly in warrior mode.
Yeah. And we're taught that that's how we're supposed to be,
Yeah.
right? That there's a lot of, especially for men, there's a lot of cultural programming that says that's how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're supposed to
Yeah.
be the protector and you're supposed to be fighting for good and fighting against evil.
Big boys don't cry and suck it up, man up, and
And that's why
walk it off. And
you bringing your energy and consciousness into a bow hunting circle is the permission for people who are still living in that conditioning to start to feel and see a different way and want
well,
some of that.
yeah. I'll tell you, I used to say a thing that I stole from somebody else, and they said, if you're not having a blast in your recovery, uh, and they used to, it said it's your own damn fault, but I today like to say that if you're not having a blast, you're not doing it right. Because I'm having a blast today. I really am. I mean, most of the time things are really, I'm like pinch me kind of stuff, day in and day out kind of stuff. And I don't like, I'm not a millionaire. I don't, I, you know, I, I'm relatively a modest middle class kind of person. So it's not that, but I have good friends. I've got a good life. I've got good employment, keeps the bills paid and I can play, for whatever reason, it seems to take that stuff to be able to do some things, right? If I could just do this other work and all the lights would be paid for and the gas and all that, and I could just do this, but I don't find that now I might probably am overlooking that because I know the things are intertwined too. It's not a zero sum thing, but yeah,
Okay,
things
so the
things are
angels have a
fine.
little message about that, if you don't mind. They
Okay.
want you to know that doing the other stuff, like the handyman stuff, enables them to put you in somebody's kitchen that you wouldn't otherwise have any reason to be in their kitchen,
Yeah, I
right?
can't tell you
So,
how many times I've been in somebody's kitchen and they don't, a lot of these people, now I've got some really good clients I've worked with for a while that know me and I've been open with them, but most of the time it's come like that. And I go, something will happen. They will tell me about their son is drinking too much, and I haven't said a word to them, you know, and I can't help but I go, okay, I feel like I'm being,
exactly.
and it's uncanny
Which is not to say
how
that if
often
you,
that happens.
right, because you're the right tool for the job
Yep. And
on
I
multiple
thought I'm,
levels, right? You're
yep,
the guy who can fix the leaking faucet, and
right.
you're the guy who is the right person for that job because the divine knows you've got what they're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I think about that. I think I'll go, well, I thought I was over here for this stuck cabinet drawer. Uh, and then I've also thought I'm like, is there some energy that like stuck that cabinet door that got me over here?
Uh-huh. And that's the angels doing their thing, right? They're orchestrating all these things for us. So the more that we can be like the other day, we were coming home from vacation and we had a blowout and we had to stay overnight somewhere and we had to get the flat tire fixed. The more we can be in I wonder why you did that. I wonder what beautiful thing that is bringing us or what that helped us avoid. And there had been ice in the mountains on the way home, so maybe we avoided having a major accident on black ice. But the more we can greet whatever that thing is, the stuck drawer, the leaky faucet, with thank you. I wonder what magic and miracles can unfold through this.
Yep.
Then, somebody like Dan shows up, or somebody who's needing what you've got shows up. It's not always because giving and receiving are simultaneous, right?
Yeah.
They're not separate things. They're all one thing.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I give divine love to somebody else, I receive because I'm feeling divine love flowing through me. And I could do this with you all day, although I know we've been doing this
I
for
know.
a while.
I love it. It's just the way I get high today. Uh,
Totally.
I got new ways to do that. My and I always tell people, like, people picture yoga and there's a lot of I went to yoga teacher training, and that's one of my favorite jokes. If you know 10, 12 years ago you'd have said I was going to be doing yoga, I'd punch you in the nose because I thought you was calling me a sissy. uh, and now it's like a huge part of my life. But it's kick your butt yoga, though, man. This is like a stopping in a pool of sweat. It's a very it's not that hot yoga thing that Bikram. But it's a power vinyasa, and you move, and it's hot, and I love it. And I lay there with that buzz at the end of it, almost, like just, woo, all right. I did some this morning on my own because the studios are closed today because of snow. Uh, but do it together, do it on my own here at home and feel that going on. And, you know, when I first started I was an engineer for a long time. They laid me off in 2019. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I was open enough that I didn't worry about it. Though one door closes, another one's going to come open. They gave me a good severance package. They gave me pay for my insurance. I was all taken care of. I didn't have to make any fast moves. I didn't have to freak out and go, oh my God, what am I going to do? I had paychecks coming for quite some time, and I just kicked back and did a lot of yoga and played around. And this handyman thing just come about organically because somebody, an old acquaintance, knew I was handy and knew I wasn't working at the moment and wondered if I'd come over and fix something. And it just went boom, boom, boom. And I had it in my head that, like, these people was not going that I'd be running into a lot of people who were unhappy because their stuff wasn't working, or that I'd be dealing with people that was just going to be hard to deal with all the time, because I had a thought that because they had things that weren't working, they would be unhappy. And then that's how I would show up to this unhappy person. And I was going to have to figure, how to navigate this stuff. It was completely not the thing. Like I've been running into the best people, man, like just people that I want to continue to work for, and people that I enjoy. I can go over and fix their thing for 30 minutes, but there I'm talking, we're sitting there having another hour-long conversation after the fact, and not getting out of there. So another one of those things, where you set up this and I know better, and I knew better then too, but it's still there, those little kernels of stuff that kind of still want to block and want to jump in and want to, I'm not really the devil made me do it kind of guy. I don't know. I mean, I know there's some dark energy and there's some other stuff, but I don't really think there's something trying to derail me, really, besides me. I don't. uh, but to have those notions that you think something is going to be a certain way and it turns out being some other way, just is another one of those things, like the evidence piling up, that you just keep on seeing that. And that's what I meant about, like, the maturity thing. Some of that just comes with being around a while.
And there are a lot of beings being born now who are very highly evolved, let's say, or haven't forgotten. So they haven't come into the dense programming. They've just come in more the truth of who they are. But the angels wanted to comment on your journey of the getting laid off and not freaking out. So therefore, you were open and receptive when somebody said, "Hey, can you fix this thing? It needs fixing." And that evolved into a way that the angels could bring you money, right? All resources flow from source. And they flow through the path of least resistance. So sometimes that's getting 3 jobs because that's all we know and that's the only path they can flow it to us through. But the more we can not freak out, and the more the divine can bring us work that brings us joy, that feels like joyful contribution to us and to the people we work with. And that's really the reason I'm on the planet right now, is to help transform work into joyful contribution.
Mm.
Like, and it's so divinely perfect that you do a whole bunch of different things. Some people are total specialists, right? They're absolutely incredible violinists, and violin is their life, and they're happy with that. Some people have that life because their parents made them. That's a whole different story. But for those, some people are total specialists, right? The neurosurgeon is very different from the family practitioner. Generalists have a place. You being a sort of generalist, right? You have different things that you do, and they all bring you joy, and you don't have to choose. The angels really want to make you the poster child for you can be and do all these things, and resources can flow to you from so many different places. And if you were to stop having to do those things to pay the bills, the divine would find other ways to flow resources to you. It, there's no one right way. The more we can be very easy about it and not feel stuck about any of it, the more we can follow my beloved Paul calls it 2020 breadcrumbs. When we look
Mm,
back, we have 2020 hindsight, we can see the breadcrumb trail that we were being led
yep.
along.
Yep.
But at the moment, it feels like, what do you mean you want me to go over in left field? It's like, okay. And then 3 weeks later or 3 years later, I'm like, oh, that person I met over there was exactly who this person needs right now. Thanks for the tangent.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
That's what I say. I see my life in my rearview mirror. You know, I like to go, oh, that's why that happened. Okay, now I see. But like when it's happening, I'm pretty clueless most of the time. Again, that's evolving and different things. I'm better at like recognizing things as it happens now. But for a while, and it still does, it happens in the rearview mirror. That they laid me off. I was gone for 6 years. I worked there for 28 years from a time. It was like basically my only adult job at some level. I started when I was 21 years old, and I was uh, almost 50 when they laid me off. And but they called me back up in February and wanted to know if I'd come back on a part-time basis. So now I'm back with them, and I really like that. What we do there, I really liked it. I'm really good at it. And they made me some kind of like pinch me sweet deal. That I'm like, again, this stuff, this evidence, like you're saying, it just keeps on. I don't have to work real hard. I like almost to some level feel like I've done nothing.
And that's the thing, right? When we're in flow or in the zone or doing what is our superpower, then it's energizing, not draining. And that also means that you're showing up there without resistance because resistance makes it tiring too. So, and
And
you
I had
could.
resistance when they laid me off. I had been there and some things, and there was some energy there. It wasn't fitting with me. I was like walking down the halls hearing circus music playing in my head. Doot, 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 doot. It just felt so like this is not real. But I couldn't let go of the security post, right? 401ks, insurance, good paycheck. I couldn't walk. And I know I saw it as plain as I saw it the day before it happened. I did. I packed up my stuff, all my personal belongings on
Wow.
on a Thursday. And I took everything you're not supposed to use the computers at work for your personal stuff, but who doesn't, right? And they give you this G drive to put your personal stuff in until you don't use it. Uh, that's part of the circus music, it's
Right.
like. And but the day before, I had the angels told me, and I pushed all my stuff, all my personal stuff up onto my cloud drive because they'd let me come back and get my coffee cup and my pictures of my kids and that kind of stuff, but they would not have let me get back in that computer. Uh, and and then the next day, I was laid off, and I didn't say anything to anybody because I was actually embarrassed, right? Scared. Like you'll think I'm nuts if I told you what I'm doing, but something is telling me to do this. And I did.
They were following it.
I put everything in my backpack, my coffee maker, my pictures, my everything in my backpack and pushed everything. And I left on Thursday, and Friday morning, I didn't have a job anymore. And they wanted to come back for an exit interview and all this. And they said, you can come get your stuff. And that was an interesting discussion too. Cause she goes, cause they escort you out. You're going to come back on a Saturday to get your stuff escorted you know. And I had taken all my stuff home the day before, and I told her, I said, I don't need to come back. And she was like, why? I said, I took all my stuff home on Thursday. And she's like, yeah, I didn't have an answer for it. I didn't try to give her an answer for it.
Yeah.
Um, But
But this
that's
can be
but
our
those are those
experience.
evidence stuff, that stuff
Mhm.
that builds this knowing, right?
Yeah.
That I don't have to. How easy is it to live when you know?
And when you don't have to trust anyone but your guidance, right? Just and don't have to share it with anybody, don't have to explain it to anybody. That's probably one of the harder things is we don't have to tell anybody. They don't have to understand. Oh, one more little gem the angels really want to share from the book. It's actually from the next book. When most people have been trained to look for outside validation, approval, you know, you're doing a good job, whatever it is, right? At work,
That's
you
nice.
want to get good performance reviews and promotions. And when you're a kid, your parents want you to get good report cards and all that. And so we're trained to do that. And we feel like we need other people to see us and hear us and validate us. And that's very disempowering because other people are in the middle of their own gunk, right? The person who's laying you off is probably feeling trauma and fear and all the other things, right? And the person that you're living with is dealing with their crap at work and whatever. The the minute we can see ourselves and validate ourselves and appreciate ourselves, in other words, being love and compassion for ourselves, that's the minute we don't need it from anybody else. So it literally takes all of our power back from all those other people. And ironically, the minute we do that, they're more able to see and appreciate us because neediness is a repelling energy.
Yeah.
So the minute we're showing up needy, like, am I okay? Did I do it right? They're like, oh, I hate assigning things to Sue because she needs so much positive feedback. It's exhausting.
Yeah, and it's interesting that and I think I have a great deal of empathy today, and I don't mean to worry that it would be coming off wrong, but I know I see these men who are, my age showing up, and and what I see is like a 12-year-old in their dad's suit, you know, pretending to be a grown up. There's some movies and stuff, and you saw those images on TV or movies or stuff over time, Honey, I Shrunk My Kids kind of things or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
Big. I love big.
Big. Yeah, maybe that's the one. That might be the one I'm thinking of that I can't put my mind on, but I think that was it, where you got the sleeves are hanging all down. And that's like my image, and I can't help it. And it's a little bit like almost like I almost shy away from it a little bit, like not want to, because I see this man and he's really not.
So almost all of us show up almost all the time as our scared inner child. And, scared looks different ways depending on your orientation in that particular circumstance. You could be showing up as your inner porcupine shooting needles at people. Um, but that's we're showing people our fears and our wounds all day long. So
And
one of
trying hard not to.
so the being love thing is recognizing people only say two things to you at the most essential level. They say, I love you, which might be, hey, dude, great to see you, or, whatever, let's go to lunch. Or they're saying, I'm scared, please love me,
Mm.
which might sound like, get the fuck away from me. I hope you don't mind me swearing.
No, I don't. I usually mirror my, because I'm a sailor with my buddies,
I was a car magazine editor, right? Um, but so basically, people only ever say two things. I'm scared, please love me, or I love you. And when you walk through the world with that awareness, then you see that scared little boy in his daddy's suit or work clothes, and you see that scared little girl with all the makeup on. Um, and you can be compassion in action, which sometimes means you get out of the room with them, right? Self-compassion in action first. And it transforms your experience of the world when you know that, oh, you're mean because you're scared. You're controlling because you're scared. You're depressed because you're scared. It's like, oh, honey,
Yeah, I
that's a
really
hard
like
way to
that.
go through life.
That really resonates with me. It wasn't that you really put something into me there. I was with that, but that like really solidified that thought. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. That's landing deeply.
Oh, I love this so much.
I have a blast doing this, and I just feel so. It's another pinch me, man. I get to talk to people like you, and we get to knock these things around, And I like this. We don't have any idea where we're going with it, right? What we're going to say, what's going to come. I love that I hesitate to like attribute what I'm saying, but I do. It's the same to something else, but that's actually the truth. It's really not, like I don't really know anything. A lot of people have taught me a lot, and anything I'm bringing, don't confuse it that it's Dan. Somebody shared this with me. I might have picked up something now and again that's, from the ground up, from the angels, from that kind of power, but most of it is from knocking around stuff with people like you. It's so cool to be able to do this.
Oh, yeah. And delicious and
It is
inspiring
delicious.
and heartwarming and
And
clearing
like I
a gut.
said, to see the people shining their lights keeps my light on too, because if I sit there and watch it's pretty crazy out there today, uh, in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. And I can find myself getting pulled there, because that energy's strong to want to bring you into that craziness, and this is one of like my antidotes.
And that's why that lighthouse image is so powerful. The lighthouse doesn't run out into the sea to try and save sailors. It stays grounded
Yeah.
in place and it shines its light no matter what's going on around it.
That
And
was that was given to me in my yoga teacher training.
and
They 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 gave
it's a
me
practice.
the kind of, I don't know what's the I don't know what you would I'm trying to think of the terms they used and I'm not coming up with it, but they like gave everybody like a emblem, a symbol, the
Mhm.
teachers did of what they of each student. And I got a lighthouse.
Yes. Yes.
And
So when we can tend to our inner harmony first, right? Notice when I'm feeling turbulent, take care of myself. Then I say the beacon is strong, right? The lighthouse is lit. And those who are looking for our unique flavor of the divine, because yeah, it's not you, and yeah, it is you, right? What comes through Dan is Dan flavored. What comes through Sue is Sue flavored.
yeah,
And how cool is that that we get to be our unique expression of the divine, expressing in our unique way?
yeah, come together and be a Sunday. Uh,
Yes. Yummy.
yeah, yeah, it's really, really, really cool. We're coming up on 2 hours, and I love
Okay,
the
I guess we
thinking of
probably
it.
have to stop.
Uh,
I love
yeah, I tell people sometimes people will say, because I will listen to 5 hour long podcasts. Now, I'm not rarely am I biting it off at 5 hours, but things got pause buttons and they almost remember everything when you just stop listening to it and you go back. It's right where you left off. And so people go, man, some of your podcasts are awful long. I'm like, you don't have to listen to it at all, first off. And you don't have to listen to it all at once either. Uh, so I just it's thank you for coming on the show. I've enjoyed this bigger. Grab that book again. Make sure we get that up,
it.
and uh, and I'll make sure to put that 63 messages.
Yes, 63 really short messages. So let me just like here's that one jewel I was talking about. So they all start with an image and words that the angels have attuned to dissolve gunk. So every single chapter starts like that. So
Very
we talked
cool.
kind of about the cosmic two by four, right? When you get whacked upside the head, when you get laid off
Yep.
from the job you hated. So,
Yeah, I've had so many things hit me. There's the book the movie Finding Joe. Have you ever watched it? Joe, it's a
uh,
Joe. It's like based on the teachings of Joseph Campbell.
oh,
And a guy in there talks about that the universe will talk to you, and usually first it'll be a tickle feather, but we rarely listen to that. And then later on, and then eventually, usually what gets our attention is they have to get the sledgehammer out. You don't have to do that. You don't have to wait for the sledgehammer. I love that message. And then to go back to the thing about, and I agree, I use that all the time. It's really not becoming who I am. It is sloughing off of who I am not.
Exactly.
And there's a story in there about the golden Buddha that they hid. They covered this big golden Buddha with mud, and some kids are sitting around, and somebody hits it, and a piece of chops falls off, and you see that little gold through the knee. And we are just like that. Once you pick off that little bit and you see that gold that's inside you, I just want to spend the rest of my life getting the rest of the mud off. And I
Exactly.
love that too. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube and it's free. It's kid friendly. It I shared all. It's Finding Joe.
Writing it down.
And if you need to send me an email, I'll send you a link to it. But it's just a great uplifting piece of film or whatever you want to call it. And I love to that's another thing I tend to do, and this is part of it, is my spiritual diet, what I'm intaking. I try to always keep that in those kinds of flavors and keep the other stuff at bay so it doesn't come in here and cause an abscess. And uh, it's kind of like what it does to me.
Yeah, it eats away at you.
I can
You're
find
right.
myself like getting sick. Like it's not, I'm not, don't, not the flu, not that, but I feel myself getting sick if I allow, and I can't help it. It starts pulling me in because is that true? Is what I'm hearing really true? Let me go, and then you go and you go, I have no, there is, how do I know what in here is true? You know, all this that's fed to me, black and white from different directions. Who, and I don't know. I'll back out of it. It's a little bit of a head in the sand kind of attitude, but it works for me.
Well, it's not. It's being it's following the energy. It's noticing that stuff really feels yucky. When I go down that rabbit hole, I feel worse and worse and worse. And so I choose me. I choose love for me. And so I follow the stuff that feels better and better and better. And we've been told that that's selfish, but that's a lie. When I choose what feels better and better and better, then I can be the lighthouse. Then I can be available to help
Yep.
others who are ready for what I can offer. But when I feel awful, I'm just not as my vessel is empty, right?
Yep. And it just starts gunking up my antennas and uh yeah. So yeah, it's funny too that those people that have that, like I was talking about earlier, they really are attracted to that stuff, man. They get in the weeds. That's a great place to be in all that chaos, you know. And like you said, it's because it's a comfortable place they're familiar with, and they tend to
But
drift that direction a little bit.
and some people's path is to work on that stuff, right? Some people's path is to learn as much as they can about a problem and then embody the solution. And some people's path is to keep things functional until people are ready for a different way. And that is a divine purpose, right? You got to keep the systems working because if all the systems collapse tomorrow, that's not loving. That's not kind for humanity. And some people's path, like yours and mine, is to be creating the world that we know is possible. So we all just have different journeys. It doesn't
Yep.
make other
Yep.
people's journeys bad or wrong.
Right, right. Yep. Yep. And that's another kind of a mantra that my sponsor taught me. You gotta let them have their journey. Let them have their journey. Uh,
Not my circus, not my monkeys,
yep.
right?
Yep. That's it. There's a lot of funny sayings that come out of all this stuff, you know, all these little one-liners. I always attribute, like, I feel like AA has got more than most. We've just got a ton of little sayings, and I know they're not necessarily, it's just where I picked them up, but not my circus, not my monkeys, I hear pretty frequently. It's a good one. All right. Well, I've enjoyed it. I have another podcast today. And it was good because, like, it's snowy and icy. And what else am I going to do today? My middle name is Elliott, spelled just like you spell your name. Uh,
That's awesome.
yeah, isn't that interesting? I saw a picture. You know how that is when you see that, because it's also not always spelled like that either. Two L's, two T's. My dad's best friend last name was Elliott, and I picked up that he named me after dad's best friend. And yeah, it's I like it. I
I love
fought
it.
people over it because back when Pete's Dragon was popular, and I would get teased about the name Elliot.
But
I
then
had a real,
ET came out and it was a whole
yeah,
different
yeah, resurrected it. Yeah.
thing.
All right, we'll go on forever if we don't slam the
I
gavel here
know.
soon. So it was
Just gonna
such a
send you a
pleasure
big
talking to
virtual
you.
hug.
Yeah, I like that. And
Thank you.
you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe in the ice. I
Yes.
think the most, well, from what I understand, the worst of it's over for now. So it's not going to get better soon though, because it's going to be cold for a little bit here anyway.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. No big deal. I've
Well,
enjoyed
sending
the heck
out.
out of the weekend because it just made me sit still for a while, and I looked at it that way. That okay, time to do nothing a little bit.
Yay. Well, sending you love, sending all your listeners in whatever moment of now they're listening to this. So much love.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and we'll have to do it again because I think we got more.
Pretty please. Oh, yay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.